When I bought my house, I loved the quiet cul-de-sac and the private little road that ran behind my property. It wasn't part of the neighborhood HOA, it was part of my deed, a little patch of asphalt that gave me control, privacy, and peace. But then the HOA decided to take it, without asking. One morning I woke up to find signs, fresh paint, and smug HOA board members declaring my road as community property. They paved over my private road sign, sent letters about new road maintenance fees, and warned me not to park there anymore. That was the moment I decided. If they wanted my road, they would regret it. I didn't go through lawyers, and I didn't start a shouting match at their monthly meeting. No, I went with something cleaner, sharper, and unforgettable. Every single car parked on my stolen road vanished overnight, gone without a trace. I didn't damage them, didn't destroy them. I simply used the clause of ownership. My deed gave me the right to tow or remove trespassers. And so I called every tow company in town. By sunrise, not a single HOA car remained. They scrambled like ants, furious, confused, powerless. The best part? They couldn't fight me. My title, my rights, my road. And suddenly, the HOA learned a hard lesson. Take without asking, and you'll lose far more in return. I not only got my road back, I got my peace of mind. And for the first time, the HOA finally remembered the golden rule. Don't mess with the one neighbor who reads the fine print.
Property rights matter more than most people realize, and yet they are often the least understood aspect of homeownership. When someone buys a house, the paperwork seems endless. Deeds, surveys, title insurance, mortgage documents, and pages of legal jargon that most homeowners skim through just to get to the finish line. But tucked within that mountain of text are the rights that can protect you when a dispute arises, and ignoring them can leave you at a serious disadvantage. Property rights are not just about who lives in a house. They extend to the land, the airspace above it, the ground beneath it, and any access routes or easements tied to it. Understanding these rights gives homeowners the ability to defend themselves against encroachment, misuse, or, in this case, an overzealous HOA. At the heart of property ownership is the deed, the legal document that spells out exactly what you own. The deed describes boundaries, identifies access points, and may even mention rights to private roads or shared driveways. Too often, homeowners do not pay close attention to these details, assuming that their property is simply everything inside the fence or everything the realtor pointed at. But the deed can contain nuances that make all the difference in a conflict. For instance, if a homeowner owns a private road, even if it looks like a public or shared street, the deed affirms their control over it. That ownership means they can set rules, limit access, or even tow vehicles, as long as they remain within the limits of local laws. Another critical concept tied to property rights is easements. An easement gives someone else the right to use part of your property for a specific purpose, such as a utility company running lines or a neighbor having driveway access. Easements can be permanent or temporary, broad or limited, but they don't erase ownership. The owner still retains ultimate control of the land, subject only to the conditions of the easement. In many disputes with HOAs or neighbors, the confusion comes from people treating easements as if they erase ownership entirely, when in fact they only grant limited access. Knowing the difference between outright ownership and an easement can be the key to winning a dispute. When it comes to homeowner associations, the misunderstanding of property rights often works in the HOA's favor. HOAs function by creating a perception of authority. They issue notices, fines, and letters filled with official-sounding language, and many homeowners comply without question. But HOAs only have the power granted to them in their governing documents, which apply only to properties bound by that association. If a road, lot, or piece of land is not part of that legal framework, the HOA has no jurisdiction, no matter how much they claim otherwise. This is where property rights become a shield. A homeowner who knows what their deed says can push back firmly, not through arguments, but through legal clarity. Moreover, property rights are enforceable. If someone uses your property without permission, it is considered trespassing. If an organization paints over signs, imposes fees, or treats your land as their own, they are encroaching on your ownership. And while shouting matches and angry emails often accomplish little, documentation does. A deed, a survey, or a title record is far more powerful than opinion. With these tools, homeowners can involve law enforcement, towing companies, or courts if necessary, all while standing on firm legal ground.
Homeowners associations were originally created to preserve neighborhood standards, maintain shared spaces, and protect property values. On paper, that sounds like a fair and reasonable system. In practice, however, HOAs often overstep their authority, moving beyond their original purpose and into the private lives of homeowners. This overreach usually stems from a combination of poorly informed board members, vague governing documents, and the simple fact that many residents don't realize the limits of an HOA's power. When people believe an HOA has unchecked control, the association can get away with enforcing rules and restrictions it has no legal right to impose. The first thing to understand about HOAs is that their authority does not come from thin air. It is grounded in the community's governing documents, bylaws, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, often called CC&Rs. These documents outline exactly what the HOA can and cannot do. For instance, they may set standards for landscaping, home exteriors, and shared amenities such as pools or parks. They may also describe how dues are collected and how violations are handled. However, unless a specific rule is written into those documents, the HOA has no power to enforce it. Many associations, unfortunately, rely on intimidation rather than facts, sending out violation notices for things that fall outside their scope. Homeowners who aren't familiar with the CC&Rs often comply, not realizing they are under no obligation to do so. Another way HOAs overstep is by attempting to regulate property that does not legally fall under their control. This is especially common when a neighborhood borders land or roads that are privately owned, city-maintained, or exempt from HOA oversight. Just because a road runs through a community does not automatically make it subject to HOA authority. Similarly, if a homeowner's lot was never legally included in the association's boundaries, the HOA has no jurisdiction there. Despite this, many boards assume they can extend their reach simply because a property appears to be part of the neighborhood. The problem arises when they start issuing fines, restricting access, or imposing fees on land they have no claim to, effectively taking control of something that doesn't belong to them. Enforcement practices can also reveal overreach. Some HOAs employ aggressive tactics, such as threatening legal action, placing liens on homes, or even attempting foreclosure over minor disputes. While they do have the ability to pursue unpaid dues or clear violations of governing documents, these powers are not unlimited. A lien, for example, must be properly filed and tied to a legitimate debt. Yet some HOAs use the mere threat of financial penalties to pressure homeowners into submission, counting on fear to keep people from challenging them. Homeowners who don't know their rights may pay fines or make changes to their property unnecessarily, not realizing the HOA has no real authority in that situation. Overreach also occurs through vague or selectively enforced rules. An HOA may claim it enforces community standards equally, but in reality, enforcement often varies based on who complains or who sits on the board. One neighbor may be allowed to keep a certain type of landscaping, while another receives violation letters for the same thing. This selective enforcement is not just unfair, it can also be legally challenged. Consistency is required in order for HOA rules to hold weight, and any pattern of favoritism or arbitrary decision-making undermines their legitimacy. What many homeowners fail to realize is that HOAs are not government entities. They do not hold police power, and they cannot override city, state, or federal law. Their power is contractual,
based solely on the governing documents homeowners agree to when purchasing a property in the association. This means an HOA cannot, for example, create laws, restrict basic rights, or claim ownership over private land. Yet, countless stories exist of HOAs trying to dictate everything from what cars can be parked in driveways to what political signs can be displayed on lawns, often in violation of constitutional or statutory protections. The best defense against HOA overreach is knowledge. Homeowners who read their governing documents, understand their property boundaries, and stay informed about state laws are far less likely to be bullied by excessive enforcement. While an HOA may claim authority, claims are not the same as rights. By questioning letters, asking for citations from the CC&Rs, and pushing back against unjust fines, homeowners can hold associations accountable. In the end, HOAs often act as though they hold sweeping power, but in reality, their authority is narrow and clearly defined. Overreach happens when homeowners fail to challenge that illusion of control. The truth is simple. HOAs work for the community, not the other way around. And when they try to step beyond their limits, it is up to informed homeowners to remind them where those limits lie.
Silent power is often underestimated in conflicts, particularly when people are dealing with organizations like homeowners associations. The natural reaction when faced with an overbearing board or unfair treatment is to argue loudly, send heated emails, or make a scene at the next community meeting. While this approach feels satisfying in the moment, it rarely produces lasting results. Loud protests draw attention, but they can also escalate tensions, harden opposition, and make the homeowner appear unreasonable even when they're in the right. Silent power, on the other hand, operates differently. It relies on knowledge, preparation, and action taken quietly but effectively, with results that speak louder than words ever could. The foundation of silent power is information. When a dispute arises, the first instinct might be to fight back verbally, but the stronger approach is to gather evidence, review governing documents, and understand the law. A homeowner who knows the limits of an HOA's authority and can point to specific clauses in the covenants or city ordinances holds the advantage, even if they say nothing initially. When the time comes to act, that preparation allows them to move decisively rather than react impulsively. This is power rooted in facts, not volume, and it creates outcomes that cannot easily be dismissed. Another aspect of silent power is the ability to use legal and procedural channels instead of emotional responses. HOAs operate under strict rules themselves. They must follow due process, hold votes, issue notices properly, and act within the scope of their bylaws. When they overstep, a homeowner does not need to yell at a meeting to be heard. They can file a formal challenge, document violations of procedure, or even take the matter to local authorities. These quiet actions carry far more weight than any public confrontation because they bypass arguments and go straight to accountability. Silent action has the strength of legitimacy, and that is difficult for an HOA to fight against. Silent power is also effective because it removes the drama that HOAs often feed on. A board faced with an angry, shouting homeowner can easily dismiss that person as difficult or unreasonable, even if their complaint is valid. But when a homeowner acts calmly, refuses to take the bait, and instead enforces their rights with quiet certainty, the dynamic changes. It is harder to villainize someone who does not lose their composure, and harder to ignore actions that are firmly grounded in legal authority. Silence, paired with strategic steps, commands respect in a way that loud protests rarely do. Consider the difference between arguing about parking rules at a community meeting versus quietly contacting a towing company with proof of property ownership. The argument might drag on for hours with no resolution, but the silent action produces immediate results. Cars are removed, rules are clarified, and authority is restored. One path is noisy but ineffective. The other is quiet but transformative. Silent power is about choosing the latter. This principle extends beyond HOAs and applies to most conflicts in life. People who rely on loud protests often exhaust themselves without achieving their goals, while those who prepare carefully and act strategically tend to prevail. Silent power is not weakness, it is restraint, discipline, and confidence in one's position. It demonstrates that a person does not need to shout to be taken seriously. Instead, they let the outcome of their actions prove their strength. There's also a psychological benefit to exercising silent power. By avoiding unnecessary conflict, homeowners preserve their peace of mind. Arguments drain energy and create hostility between neighbors, sometimes damaging community relationships permanently. Silent action, however, addresses the problem without inflaming it. The issue is resolved, the authority of the homeowner is affirmed, and the community can move forward without the bitterness that often lingers after public disputes. In this way, silent power not only resolves the immediate conflict, but also protects long-term well-being. Ultimately, silent power is stronger than loud protests because it shifts the focus from emotion to results. While protests may draw attention, results command respect. HOAs, like any organization, are bound by rules, and those rules provide homeowners with leverage. When that leverage is applied quietly, strategically, and lawfully, the impact is undeniable. Silence, backed by preparation and decisive action, is not just powerful, it's the most effective form of power.
Standing firm while staying legal is one of the most important strategies a homeowner can adopt when facing disputes with a homeowners association or any authority that attempts to push past its limits. Conflicts with organizations like HOAs often tempt people to act out of frustration. They feel wronged, powerless, or targeted, and the instinctive response is to retaliate in ways that may cross legal or ethical lines. While such reactions might feel satisfying temporarily, they often weaken a person's position, escalate tensions, and sometimes create more serious problems than the original issue. The real strength lies in standing firm, refusing to give in or back down, while ensuring that every action taken is fully supported by law. The first step in staying legal is understanding what the law allows. HOAs operate within a framework of contracts, bylaws, and state or local statutes. They may impose rules, collect dues, and enforce certain standards, but they cannot invent authority where none exists. A homeowner who understands their deed, the association's covenants, and applicable state laws can see clearly where the HOA's power ends. This knowledge is not just protection against unfair treatment, it provides a roadmap for action. Instead of lashing out, the homeowner can point to specific legal language that backs their position, instantly shifting the balance of power. Standing firm means refusing to be intimidated by threats or pressure. HOAs often send strongly worded letters warning of fines, liens, or legal action. These are designed to scare homeowners into compliance, even when the HOA has no true authority in the matter. A firm homeowner does not react with fear, but instead examines whether the HOA's claims are valid. If they are not, the correct response is not an angry confrontation, but a calm, documented reply citing the relevant law or covenant. This steady, controlled resistance is more effective than shouting matches because it demonstrates both confidence and credibility. Another part of staying legal is documenting everything. Paper trails protect homeowners from false claims and give weight to their side of the story. Every letter received, every violation notice, and every communication should be kept. Likewise, responses should be in writing whenever possible. Documentation not only discourages the HOA from making baseless claims, but also provides evidence if the dispute escalates to mediation, arbitration, or court. Standing firm without documentation is like building on sand. Staying legal requires building on solid, recorded proof. It is also essential to understand the lawful remedies available. Homeowners can challenge unfair fines, refuse invalid restrictions, and in some cases take legal action against HOAs that overstep. They may appeal to state agencies that oversee community associations, contact local authorities if property rights are infringed, or even file lawsuits for harassment or breach of contract. Exercising these rights requires patience and persistence, but it ensures that every step is defensible.
Unlike retaliatory actions, such as damaging HOA property or publicly shaming board members, legal remedies produce enforceable outcomes. Remaining lawful also safeguards long-term interests. A homeowner's property is often their largest financial asset, and reckless decisions can put that asset at risk. Breaking the law, even in response to unfair treatment, can lead to fines, lawsuits, or damaged credit. Standing firm within legal boundaries ensures that the homeowner's investment is protected, while still making it clear that they will not be taken advantage of. It's about combining strength with wisdom, refusing to give in, but never giving the opposition ammunition to use against you. Finally, staying legal has an important psychological effect on both sides. When a homeowner responds calmly, knowledgeably, and within the law, the HOA is forced to respect their position. Overreaching board members often thrive on provoking emotional responses, but when those tactics fail, their power diminishes. The homeowner, in turn, gains confidence in their ability to defend themselves effectively. This dynamic not only resolves the immediate conflict, but also sets the tone for future interactions. The message becomes clear. This is someone who cannot be bullied, but who will also not break the rules in retaliation. In the end, standing firm while staying legal is about striking the right balance between strength and discipline. It's the ability to resist intimidation without overreacting, to defend rights without creating new liabilities, and to pursue justice without losing composure. Homeowners who master this balance are not just protecting their property, but they're safeguarding their peace of mind and demonstrating that true power comes not from anger, but from knowledge and lawful action.